I want something better for myself.
Exactly.
And I've always wanted the best out of life. And I've been one of these people that my glasses are always half full. I've never sort of, I've had a few desperate moments, but I've never sort of been half empty. So I've always been positive, even way back then.
Achieving big goals requires you to become a bigger person. You must develop new habits, abilities, skills, and attitudes. You must stretch yourself, and in so doing, you'll be forever stretched. This is by Vic Johnson. Today's guest was in the British Army. He took part in all ceremonial duties in London during his time. The last 8 years of his life in the Army was spent as a unit welfare officer for London Central Garrison. He played rugby, telemark skiing, and competed several times at the British Telemark Championships. He is a reasonably experienced offshore sailor who owned 3 boats. Tim Heale will be sharing with us today his success life journey and what it took to rise within the ranks. Hello, Tim, and welcome to Podcast with Sheila.
Hi, Sheila. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Thank you.
Excellent.
And I'm delighted to have you on today's episode for one particular reason, such that it's always a delight to learn from people and what they've been through so that we can use it as a guide in our lives. And also, it gives us hope to be able to do it. Knowing if they were able to do it, can also do it. And also to not make some mistakes, because somebody would have lived it and will be telling the story. So we know where the mistakes were, and we would also know this. So it's like a guide to try and make it right. So I'm excited to have you here today. Just before we hit the ball rolling, can you give us a little background story of who Tim is, what life was like growing up just before you went into the British Army?
Oh yes. Well, I was born about way back in 1958. So I'm coming up to being sort of 64. So I'm going to be singing that song quite a bit lately. When I'm 64. Where I grew up, it was a small place. I was actually born on a farm just at the back of a place. You may have heard of it, Hawker Siddeley's or de Havilland's.
Oh.
It was an aircraft manufacturer. It came to prominence during the Second World War when they were building the Mosquito there. So we lived just around the back of there. When I was born, it was like 2 cottages and a farm. And then we moved into Hatfield itself, which is where de Havilland's is. It was a bit of a rough area when I grew up. I mean, the kids used to, they were taught how to fight before they could go out and play on the street. It was that kind of sort of rough area that we grew up in. But it was fun. I mean, we saw dirty kids. We got caught scrumping a few times. Taken home by the ear, by a copper. The old man would get take his leather belt off and give us a bit of an idea for being caught, not for the scrumping itself. But it was a bit of a tough upbringing, and school was a bit much the same. I struggled with school all the way through. I mean, the one incident that kind of put me off of school was there was a bully, and he started bullying me. So I went to the old man for a bit of advice. I said, "Here, Dad, I've got this bully that's bullying me at school. What should I do about it?" He said, "Well, the best thing you can do, son," he says, "give him a good thump, and then be prepared to take a good hiding if you don't." So anyway, the next time he started picking on me, I took the old man's advice. I give him a really good thump. He went flying back into the school pond. That's all anybody saw.
My God, this is a good story. I love it. I love it. At least you stood for yourself. Yeah.
I stood up for myself, but that's all anybody saw was me thump him. I was the perpetrator then. I gets lifted off to the headmaster's office, and get 6 at the best. I mean, tell me if that's not an injustice after professing my innocence all the way along. Anyway, so that kind of had a little bit of a detrimental effect on my sort of schooling, really. When I got up into secondary school, we used to go in the morning, get our names ticked off on the register, and then scarper and nip off down the woods and that, and go off, and then come back after dinner, sign in again, and then clear off.
That was good. There was some good regimen in there, wasn't it? It gave children. It put us all on the right, road. You know what to do at what time, what to say at what not to do. It actually puts some kind of. It instills some decency and everything else that makes a decent person growing up.
Yeah.
Because
well, I was a bit of a toe rag, actually.
It was, but when I look at the generation now, and I think there are a lot of things they are getting away with. And I remember just quite recently, not too long ago, I was discussing with a few women, and then we were saying, I remember when we were young, when we were in school, there was assembly. Now there are no assemblies anymore. And assembly was every day when you go to school, the national anthem. I don't know how many children know the national anthem these days, because you would say it at assembly all the time, you recite it, so every child knows assembly. And then when you come, there's the time for mental, you stand up, when you get one wrong, at least you get a cane for that. It wasn't too good back then, but it put you in check and all of those things. And when you look at the way we were brought up in the past, I know you are older than me, but I came to experience some of those things. And when I compare it to what's happening now, I see that so many things have been taken for granted, and these children kind of do what they want. And the upbringing.
I'm not sure I want to be a kid in this age.
I know, at all.
I mean, I feel pretty sorry for my grandchildren, really. I mean, what they're going to be growing up into. And I mean, if you take a look at the last 50 years and look at, you couldn't imagine 50 years ago having what we've got nowadays. I mean, kids, they're like that all day on their phones. They've got really strong thumbs, but I don't know about anything else. So,
and when you take it from them, it's as if you've taken gold, the whole world from them. They cannot do without it and all that. And I think it's actually going to have a massive negative impact on our society, our community, our country, and everything else. But let's not go too much deep into that one. I want us to dwell a little bit on your time in the British Army. What actually took you there? What took you into the British Army?
That's another funny story. Up until the age of 11, I was going to be a farmer. I was going to follow my granddad. We spent a lot of time going down my granddad's on a farm, and I wanted to be a pig farmer. We have, in England at that time, you had the 11 plus. So every kid at sort of stage 10, if you were good, you'd be able to go to a grammar school. And if you wasn't, you'd end up in one of the secondary schools. Because I'd done an awful lot of learning at that stage, I ended up having to go into a normal sort of comprehensive school, which was a big one. It was easy to bunk off because nobody knew who you were half the time. So when I went to take this test and I failed miserably, I was going to go to an agricultural boarding school. So I went there, took the entrance test to go into this agricultural boarding school and failed that miserably. It was at that point my life changed. So I thought, what do I do next? What, join the army? 14 3/4 was the first time I could go and take the test to join the army. So I went and took the test to join the army and failed that miserably as well. And the old recruiting sergeant, he says to me, son, if you can't read and write proper, you can't come into the army. Well, blimey, that was a devastating effect to me. So I went and took a hard look at myself over that weekend, and I decided, well, I've got to do something. I got no chance of getting in the army. So I went back to school, and that following Monday, I went to every single class. Half the teachers thought I was a new student. Anyway, I knuckled down, and I think it was about 6 or 7 months later, back with a mate to take the test to join the army. And the recruiting sergeant, he walked out the room and my mate was giving me some answers. So I managed to scrape through and I managed to get a place to go and join the army. So on the 5th of August 1974, I joined the army as a junior infantry soldier at the Depot de Queen's Division.
Right.
And never really looked back from there. So I left home at 16 and had a career in the army that spanned pretty much 44 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So we can go into some of that.
Great. So what are some of the ranks you had gone through before you finally came out?
When I left the army, I left the army on the 4th of April 2018 as a colour sergeant.
Okay.
So I'd had my first career and I left the army.
Okay.
And I had a few years outside doing, I was still had a commitment to the army on a reserve commitment until the age of 45. So I went back once a year, signed a bit of paper, and I did that for a few years. Got back to corporal, and then I got recruited onto 15 UK Psychological Operations Group, and got promoted there. Got promoted up to colour sergeant. Did 7 operational tours. I did 2 tours in Kosovo. I did Macedonia. I did, when I was in Macedonia, 9/11 happened. And then 5 months later, I found myself in Kabul, wondering how did I get here? And then I did a tour of Iraq. And then I did two more tours of Afghanistan, but in Helmand. So
there's something I want to, great.
Yeah.
There's something I want us to emphasize here. I believe when you had written multiple exams and you had failed, at that point you were thinking, what good can come of me? I don't know, but anybody at that point will be thinking like that. So what can I do? What am I here for? What's my purpose? Why am I failing at everything? It would have been a concern kind of to you. And sometimes when you go through things like that, the people around you don't make it easier, especially your parents,
No.
They don't make it easier on you. And I believe a number of people who may be listening to us, somebody may be going through, it may not be the exact thing, it may be something else, but similar to what we are discussing now. And they may be very down, wondering how am I going to do it? And if you've been able to come out of it, this is the good thing about this podcast. If you've been able to come out of it, they will also definitely be able to do it. But what was the driving force at the time you kept failing those exams, but you kept pushing, and finally you were able to make it, and you had rose through the ranks and had been in that position, in the army for over 40 years. What was the driving force that kept you moving? Like, don't give up.
I didn't want to go to jail.
Yeah. Oh. Yeah.
Yeah. It was a bit of a choice, really.
Yeah.
The area I grew up in was pretty rough. I mean, it was easy to get into some sort of mischief. I mean, I spent a lot of my youth getting into mischief, and if I got caught, then it hurt. I mean, I had to give us the belt.
Yeah.
So you learn to be a bit more resourceful. I've always been fairly resourceful. I mean, a couple of times I got caught, and it wasn't going to be getting caught too many times. But I didn't. I mean, there was lots of mates of mine that were proper, I mean, worse than me. And they'd get caught and they would get sent off to Borstal, they end up in court. And I didn't want that.
Yeah.
I mean, I want something better for myself.
Exactly.
And I've always wanted the best out of life. And I've been one of these people that my glasses are always half full. I've never sort of, I've had a few desperate moments, but I've never sort of been half empty. So I've always been positive even way back then. I mean, always sort of go and try and seek some advice from somebody that might know better than me.
Yeah.
And I mean, asked the old man, and he says, "Go and thump him." Well, if I'd have asked my mum, she might have given me a more diplomatic way of dealing with it. So from that point of view, it's just believe it in yourself, I guess. And I've always lived to the mantra of live every day as though it's your last, because one day it will be.
Exactly.
If when I die, I can say to myself that I've had a cracking life and one of my own choosing, then I should be knocking on them pearly gates saying, "Oi, let us in, I've had a good one."
Yeah.
And
do you have any successes you would like to share with us in life in general? Whilst in the army, any success stories you'd like to share, as well as challenges you would like to share with us?
Well, I've taken an awful lot of liberties in my lifetime. Never one to miss an opportunity. Like, my last job, for instance, in the army, I was a welfare officer for London Central Garrison. My main role was looking after the young guardsmen. We had three companies of foot guards, but the Grenadier Guards, the Coldstream Guards, and the Scots Guards.
Okay.
Those were what were the second battalions, but they reduced them down to a company when they did some options for change back in the 90s. So those three companies were formed to just do ceremonial duties in London. So guys were coming straight out of training. They would come down to the companies and they would learn to do their ceremonial piece, which is sort of Buckingham Palace, St James's Palace, the Tower of London, and Windsor Castle. So, and then they do the troop in the colour, they do the festival, Field of Remembrance, that sort of thing. So, from my point of view, I was looking after their welfare. We also had the five. You've got the Coldstream Guards, the Grenadier Guards, the Scots Guards, the Irish Guards, and the Welsh Guards, and their bands were all located in Wellington Barracks where I worked. So we picked up those and looked after their welfare as well. So along with all that, there's opportunities to go on to do some of the ceremonial stuff. So I've been the senior sergeant on Buckingham Palace. I've been a senior sergeant on St James's Palace, and I've been a senior sergeant on the Tower of London, and also at Windsor Castle. Brilliant. So I put a great coat on, and away I go and sort of just mount the guard, which is good fun.
Yeah.
Then on the Queen's birthday parade, it took us a couple of years, but we managed to bag a really that. You see when the carriages come across and the minor royals get out and they disappear into the building. Yeah. Or they come up the stairs and they go into what used to be Wellington's office that overlooks Horse Guards Parade. And the minor royals are all in there. So the likes of Camilla, Harry, Kate, the Gloucesters, the Kents, they're all up there with the kids and that, all watching the parade out the window. My job was done up in my best blues uniform, was to stop people coming through to sort of pester them. So I've met all the minor royals. I've met the Queen on several occasions.
Great.
Phil the Greek, I used to have a bit of a laugh with Phil the Greek. When they come in, we stood at the top of the stairs and he come doddering up the stairs. He said, "You still here?" I said, "Yeah, I've been waiting for you." He did have a sense of humour.
Yeah, but that is an honor. Thinking of how everything has started for you and how it ended beautifully for you, that is a massive honor. Yeah. What are some of the challenges you had to encounter as you were doing your job in the army or out of the army?
Blimey. I've I've got a list as long as your arm, like. Yeah, pretty much every day is a challenge, just getting out of bed in the morning.
Yeah.
But yeah, on operational tours, I guess that presents the biggest challenges that I've had, particularly the last couple of tours in Helmand Province, where my main focus was radio. My job was delivering out radio in a box. It's like a commercial radio station that we're broadcasting to the locals. So everything that I did was directed at the local population, and our role was to change attitudes and behaviour of the target audience. So mainly working on hearts and minds, trying to get the locals on side, where if they saw the Taliban coming into their area, which they did all the time. I mean, the Taliban actually lived within the communities, and you could generally spot who they were when you're going out into these villages. You're having shuras, you're having meetings with the village elders, trying to get them on side, talking to them, trying to deliver out stuff. I mean, we did a lot of building the schools and putting in some infrastructure projects. So my job was to advise the commanders that were going out on the ground about how to run a shura, if they were unsure of what sort of how to conduct it, how to speak to the elders and stuff like that. And also to pass messages on that we were running a radio station and they could listen to the radio station. And we used to go out and we deliver wind up radios and stuff so they could listen to our station. We used to drop little like credit card size radios with just that they could just switch on and just listen to the one sort of that we were broadcasting on. And I had lots of interpreters that worked for us that were recording stuff all the time. So pushing out messages, play music, and generally trying to run a commercial radio station, giving them messages, getting them on side, really. That's what it was all about. This was in 2005-06, and it was a shooting war back then. The Taliban would take us on. They start brassing us up from one position. We'd start taking cover, taking action against them, and then they'd run rings around us. They'll run around the other side and start shooting from a different direction. Our problem is that when we go out, particularly on a foot patrol, we're carrying an awful lot of kit. And we've got the body armor on, we've got a day sacks full of ammunition and water, pretty much that's it. And I remember one day we got into a contact, we'd lost comms, we'd been dropped off by a helicopter. For some reason, we'd lost comms with back at base, and we'd been out for a couple of hours and we got contacted. We sent a contact report and got nothing back. We'd lost comms with the base, and we were in contact for 9 hours. We'd almost run out of ammunition. I mean, that was a godsend. I mean, sort of, because it reduced the weight that we were carrying. We'd almost run out of water as well. I mean, it was baking hot, trying to drink, just to keep fluids going in. And every time we moved, the Taliban would start shooting at us from Monday, and we'll be shooting back at them. I mean, they were like falling plates. And this particular day, I mean, somebody was smiling on us because other than sort of a bit of dehydration and a bit of sort of exhaustion, we didn't lose anybody. But I mean, we took out quite a lot of Taliban that day. But we managed to extract back. I mean, as we was losing all this weight, we were firing off. I mean, we were sort of saving one round, keep one round in your pocket for yourself, fix bayonets.
Wow.
But finally we managed to call in some fast air that took these guys out, the rest of them out, and we got lifted out. But yeah, that was a pretty challenging day.
I can imagine.
But it was one of those days that yeah, you don't forget in a hurry.
Yeah. I nearly asked you your most memorable life experience, but I believe this might be it, or it might be one of them.
Oh, it's one of them that's up there, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow.
It's one I won't forget in a hurry, that's for sure.
Yeah. Is there any decision you've made in life that you regret making till date? You wish you had made it differently?
Maybe getting married the first time.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, been married 3 times now.
Great.
First one was a divorce. The second one, I was married for 23 years.
Great. Great.
And I don't understand what she was doing. When she got cancer the first time, I managed to get over it. She got cancer the second time, and it went and died on me. Left me in a lurch. I had to go and marry another bird.
But
So I ended up married. It's a bit of a sad sort of story, really. My best mate died a year before my wife, a year and a day before my wife. But we were best friends. I was best friends with his wife. And about 4 years after my wife had died, we decided to get together, and we've been married now for 12 years. So, so I married my best mate's wife.
Well, that's brilliant though, because then she's your friend. So it makes
we've known each other for an awful long time. So, but we're happy.
Yeah,
we're retired. Yeah,
that's the most important thing.
So we're retired, and yeah, we actually got married in the Guards Chapel.
Oh,
it was a lovely day. I was done up in my best blues. We were in the Guards Chapel, and she had a gorgeous dress on.
wow.
And because it was open to the public as well.
Yeah.
So we were like a couple of rock stars coming out, getting our pictures. All these tourists taking pictures of us on the steps of the Guards Chapel, and then we went through into the sergeant's mess in Wellington Barracks for the wedding breakfast.
Wow.
The weather was absolutely perfect. I mean, April, you couldn't ask for better weather.
Exactly.
And that night we went to the theatre. We took some friends to the theatre.
Brilliant.
Yeah. So that was a cracking day. That's another one that goes down in the annals.
That's good. That's good. Congratulations for 12 years of marriage, because it's a difficult thing to do. And when you do it and you do it well, I think that you should be applauded for that, because it's not easy on that journey. Yeah. Yeah. In your opinion, what is a successful life?
One of your own choosing.
One of your own choosing.
Yep. Far too many people live lives for other people. Live life for yourself.
Exactly.
If you can live life to the full and one of your own choosing, then you won't go far out. I mean, that's an excess in itself. If you can live your life as you want. Far too many people get into jobs, they get into a rut, they just, it's a daily grind just to get out of bed in the morning, and oh God, it's Monday again. Oh no, got to work sort of 60 hours a week to get to Friday, and by the time you get to Friday, you're too exhausted to enjoy the weekend.
Yeah.
It's easy to fall into that trap, I think. And if you are in that sort of predicament, try and get out of it. Try and make something that you want to do. If you're stuck in a job that's a dead-end job, you don't know, try and better yourself to find something better. and
exactly.
and it's out there. It's out there for the taking.
Exactly.
And that's all you've got to do. Just get on with it. That's my advice.
Yeah.
Always have a half full glass.
Yeah. I can't
There you
agree
go.
any less. I cannot agree any less. But it will not be right for us not to talk about this, because you've been in the army, and
Yep.
with current events, what's going on here now with Ukraine and Russia, what is your take on it? Do you think this war is going to be ending anytime soon? Do you see it as expanding beyond the borders of Ukraine? What is your take on everything that is going on?
I think Putin is bitten off a little bit more than he can chew with the Ukrainians. I think if he does get into the country, he's going to have a guerrilla war on his hands. He's gonna suffer pretty much the same problems that the Russians had when they went into Afghanistan in the 70s. They're not going to take him on front on, because I mean, skin and bone against the tank is a little bit one-sided with in favour of the tank. Yeah. However, a guerrilla operation where they're attacking him from all sides, and everybody will have a go. I mean, the Ukrainian government have issued everybody an AK-47 and a load of ammunition, say, fill your boots. And already Putin has lost more soldiers than the Ukrainians have lost so far. So it's not going to end well for him. But if we let him get away with it, he would expand and try and take into the Baltic states. And if that happens, then we get dragged into it anyway, because they're part of NATO.
Yeah.
Ukraine's not part of NATO, which is kind of the problem. But when you say that, neither was Afghanistan, neither was Iraq, neither were the Balkans when we went into Kosovo, Bosnia, Sierra Leone. They were all non-NATO countries that we went into. So, I think the West need to support the Ukrainians with funding and ammunition, and they also need to start freezing up all of his assets for the Omicrons across the world. Just freeze all his assets, all that money that is siphoned off out of Russia. But the problem we've got is that Germany and Italy have vetoed putting those sort of sanctions on at the moment, because that's where they get all their gas from.
Wow.
I mean, that's one of the biggest problems. That's because they're reliant on his energy for his gas for their energy. They don't want to upset the apple cart too much. But if he does get away with it, you can guarantee that Xi Jinping is going to walk straight into Taiwan before you can blink.
Whoa.
And I think that'll be the next one. In fact, he's probably sneaking in there at the moment without us noticing, because the world's focusing on Ukraine.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well,
we need to stop Putin in his tracks. He cannot get away with it. And if he does, then it's just going to end badly for the rest of us.
I just hope it doesn't end badly for the rest of us. And that's been my prayer here, that at least something should be done to stop it immediately. But from what I hear, the American soldiers are not stopping it yet. They're not doing anything to stop it yet. They've just created a border and said, if he crosses, then it's going to be World War III. Yeah. But then I just hope that they'll be able to bring it to a stop as quickly as possible before it stretches out beyond borders that nobody can be able to do much about it, but for us to all go in and fight. I hope it doesn't get there.
A lot of it is down to the Russian people. They need to realise that the West ain't going to stand for it. they're the ones that's going to suffer more
Yeah.
than Putin himself.
Yeah.
The drama is that they don't get an elected government, do they?
Yeah. Yeah. It's a shame. It's a shame. Well, if you had one wish for 2022, what would that wish be, and why?
To turn the clock back at least 3 years so we can go back to BC, before COVID.
Yeah, I wish the same.
I mean, the UK has now lifted, or England, not the UK, England has lifted all the restrictions.
Yeah.
Everything, done away with a lot.
Yeah.
We're going about, the government has done such a good propaganda job on instilling fear into the population that people are still wandering around with masks on.
Yeah.
When most of the masks that they're wearing, if you read what it says on the packet, it says not for use against an airborne virus. Yeah, they've had this fear instilled in them that if they take their mask off, they're going to kill Granny.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And so, yeah, from that point of view, it's I'd like to see BC before COVID.
Before COVID. Wow. I agree with that.
Or EC, end of COVID.
End of COVID. Do we see it ending anytime soon? That is another war on its own, isn't it?
Yeah.
It is.
I mean, that has cost trillions.
Trillions.
I mean, the UK has borrowed somewhere, I think it's around about 2 to 3 trillion for this pandemic, which in hindsight was totally unnecessary. We should have followed the Sweden's take on it. I mean, Sweden didn't lock down, they didn't destroy their
economy and all
their
that.
economy. They gave people the information and let people make their own minds up to what they did. Whereas most of the other countries around here enforced lockdowns on people, which don't work. They just prolong it. They just stretch it out. They're forcing people to wear masks that don't work against an airborne virus. So,
wow.
And if you see that they got people sort of washing their hands to sort of down to the bone, and it's an airborne virus. So yeah, they've done a pretty good job on on propaganda against us.
Yeah, my God. Well,
that's my take on it anyway.
Yeah, but I think I agree with you on a lot of fronts with what you said, with the fact that they've instilled a lot of fear. And I think it was fear that made all of us come to a halt, actually bring every action to a halt, which is now affecting us. Everything is being affected. Prices have gone high, food is shot up and all of that. When you talk to mothers, yesterday, somebody said, before COVID, I would spend £100 for shopping for my family, my children and my husband, and we can go through the week with £100. Now £100 can't even take us through the week with food. So everything is gone up, and you can see that is as a result of COVID and the lockdowns and everything else that came with it. So for me, just like you, I'd wish that 3 years back, all this never happened.
China is the ones that have benefited most from this pandemic. They was the ones that started it, and they're the ones that selling all the PPE. They're selling. And we're still buying the stuff off them.
You're still buying them?
Yeah, they're still insisting. Have you seen the test kit? The test kit, take the test kit. Open the box of test kit. Look at the amount of plastic waste is in there.
Yeah.
Look at the masks, the amount of plastic waste in those. And we're spending trillions on it. And,
so true.
And they're trying to get rid of plastics in the environment. But
we are producing
look around the discarded plastics everywhere. This mask all over the street, blowing into the
in the air and everywhere. Oh no, it's a shame. It's as if that we actually in return destroy the environment some more. before COVID. So everything has been impacted though. Everything, the environment, our lives, everything else has been impacted. That's a big shame. But hopefully I pray that at least we'll be able to go back to some sanity, just a little bit more where we were before COVID. That will be a big, massive step. What would your final message be to our listeners as we wrap up?
Oh, the finest. My advice would be always have your glass half full and live life. Live every day as though it's your last, and be nice to people.
Brilliant.
And that's it. Treat people as you want to be treated, and you won't go far wrong in life.
I totally agree. Treat people as you would want to be treated. That is well said. Would like to say a massive thank you, Tim, for coming on Podcast with Sheila today.
You're welcome.
If you've been listening in, this is season 2, episode 47 of our podcast series, where we've been bringing your way seasoned guests with inspiring real life stories to share with us. Do not miss out on all these lovely experiences. Subscribe and be notified when a new episode is released. Whilst at it, please drop us a rating. We have a video presentation of this episode on our YouTube channel. Just search for Podcast with Sheila on YouTube and you'll find us. Our prayer for you this week is that the Lord will set a table before you in the presence of your enemies. Until we meet again, have a brilliant week.